Hi there, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you the first React application. I guess it's a application, sort of a big word for what it really is, but it was the first React app that I created, I guess by myself, after learning React for a number of months last year, over the summer. And it was, I guess, really where React clicked for me in terms of sort of using some of the hooks, obviously styling, how to dynamically render content to the screen, mapping over an array, as we can see here with these buttons, just using some sort of, I guess, basic JavaScript, JSX, and that kind of thing, just to get something displaying. And as you can see here, as I increment now, we've got that working with all of the buttons, and it turns green for a positive number. And if I go back down, we can see it's red for negative. And then if I reset, it goes back to 0 and sort of back to black, I guess. And it's, a simple application, but there's definitely some sort of bits there that you can learn from. And I thought I'd show you actually how I created this today. It's not going to be a sort of full tutorial. I'm just going to go over the code. But if you did want to sort of try and recreate it, you will just need Node.js installed. So that's a JavaScript runtime. And that will give you npm as well out of the box, which is Node Package Manager. And that allows you to download, download and run Create React app, which is from React itself. So you can create a new React app here. There's sort of many different ways to add React to a website, but I think Create React app is the most simple and probably most widely used. So yeah, if you want to follow along, feel free to. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is bring this over to the left here, and just sort of slide that in. And you can see it's kind of responsive because it's just centered. It's super simple. And then I'll bring up the counter code that I've got here. And just, sort of run through each part of it, really. So if you've worked with React at all, this will be familiar. Node modules, you've got your public folder, source. For some reason, got another node modules outside of here. Don't think that's needed. Must be an issue with folders. README. So here's an example, I guess, of sort of what I added. So utilize the useState hook to set the account state when a button's clicked, and added a reset button as well. So, and then there's the ternary operators, which I'll show you, and that's how I dynamically change the styling of the count itself. So obviously for React, if you want to download the whole repository, it'll be in the link below. And then you just need to run npm install to install all the packages, because they're not on the repo itself. And then npm run start, and that will start up the server, and then you'll be presented with this basically. But yeah, so just for this app, I was using SCSS for styling, and I believe I installed Sass, so you'll get that as well if you install it. It's just a bit nicer over CSS, I find, particularly for nesting. So for example, because this span, I guess this div as well with class of negative and positive are within the H1 in the HTML. You don't have to sort of put them separately or try and target them. You can nest that in there, and it sort of knows that you're thinking of or trying to target the H1 with a class of negative that's inside it, so it doesn't actually have to be a H1. But yeah, so super simple styling. And as you can see, we've got our reds and greens here, just adding some padding and margins to buttons, for example. So where everything actually happens is the app.js. So I guess I cleared everything out from this originally, and I've got the useState hook. So this is actually what is setting the count and also dynamically rendering it to the screen. So we can see here within this span, here's our count, and obviously it starts at 0. If I update it here to 10 and hit save, we should see count will be 10 now on this page once it recompiles. And there we go. So we can see it's 10, and also it's green here. So I'm doing the sort of the green and red coloring by 2 ternary operators. So I've got class name, which is how you, I guess, target classes. In React, you can't use class because it's a reserved JavaScript keyword. Because of course, this is actually just a function, right? It's all JavaScript. Whilst this looks like HTML, it's actually something called JSX, which you'll probably be aware of. But yeah, we've got the count, and we're just checking if it's more than 0, we're adding the positive class. And then if it's not more than 0, we're doing another ternary operator. So then we're checking again, is the count less than 0? And if so, that will be negative, otherwise it will be null. And I just want to return sort of nothing, no class name. And in which case, if it is 0, and if it's not positive, it's not negative, then it's just sort of the default black here. So that's how I get the different coloring here. So it's quite simple to work out, I guess. One of the other things is, of course, now if I just set this back to 0, is here we've got a numbers array. So we've got 1, 2, 5, and 10. And you'll see here, because I'm mapping through these, I can now dynamically add different numbers to both the increment and decrement. So they're actually, that's the same array. We're just sort of adding I guess affixing a plus or a minus to them. And now we can see 20 is working here without much effort. Without also having to change the HTML, it's all being rendered from this one array here. So I'll just set it back to those 4 values. But down here is how we do that. So of course, in sort of JSX, you might be aware, but if not, we can use JavaScript if we have it within curly braces. So we've got our numbers array, which is just 1, 2, 5, and 10, and we're mapping through them. And then for each map of the number, so the parameter, each number, we're rendering a button. And you can see here I've given it a key of num, which is just the 1, 2, 5, and 10. And then we're prepending the plus or minus. And actually you can see basically all the magic for the on click happens here. I've just done it as a sort of an inline anonymous function. You can extract this out, and I can show you that actually as well. So let me just grab this, but I'll run through it first of what it's doing. So it's an anonymous function in the sense that it's got no function name, or it's not needed, I guess. And it's an arrow function, so we're calling set count, and we're taking the original count, and then we're adding count plus the num. So that would be 1, 2, 5, or 10, depending on which button we click, right? And then the same goes for the decrement. It's just minusing that count, or that number from the count. So that's all that it's really doing. It's quite simple. And then you can see on the click of the reset button, all we're doing is setting count back to 0. And then the class names are just how we style that over here. So super simple. As I said, I'll show you now actually how to create this as sort of a helper function. As I've been working more with React, you kind of want to extract all of the JavaScript logic from the JSX that you can. So on click, we'll just fire this handle add function, and we don't need to sort of call it there and then, but const handle add, like so. We'll get an arrow function, and if I just paste all that in, what we actually want, we don't need the function here. We just need, it will be actually count plus num, like so. If I hit save, oh, that's right. So as you can see, we're effectively not passing the num in that we want to add it by. So we need to do that. So you've got handle add, here's the num, and then the num here. Excuse me. So if I hit save, it should now re-render. And it's not for some reason. Let's see. Let me just inspect this. Let's have a look. So we go to the console. And I assume it's something I've done with the num infinite loops. Okay. So handle add, we want to take the num. Maybe I need to destructure it. Sorry. Okay. So I guess in terms of debugging, what I want to do is console.log that num, just to check we are actually getting that. So hopefully for each add, and sorry, it's a bit crude here. Let's just see. Oh, I can't see the console. Let's just open this up undefined. Okay, let me just take off these curly braces. adding all of the nums, whereas that should be on click handle add num. Maybe we need to actually have this as a function. So let's just try that. Nope. Let's just see. There we go. Yeah, sorry. So it was actually the function. We still need to call the function on click because we've got a variable here, and we need to obviously capture the number that we're clicking on, which we're doing now. So sorry about that. Yeah, so there we go. We've got our handle add, and actually what we can now do, and if I take out the log here, we just set the count to the count, which it currently is, plus the num, and we can see that's all working again. So there we go, a small bit of debugging, and obviously classic console logs. What I'll do the same here. So we'll just do, let's see, handle, I guess, so, oh God, was it delete? Oh, no, handle deduction, I don't know. And we will copy this, so const handle deduct. It's kind of actually just probably going to set it all out for me, but there you go. So it's the count now minus the num. I'll just let that all recompile, resave. There's no reason why that shouldn't work now. Just resave. Might need to refresh over here as well. And there we go. We've got our deduction as well, or decrement, all working nicely. Reset still going, and increment as well. So as you can see, there's sort of two ways there, I guess, to use the on clicks. This is probably the preferred version because it just makes this a bit shorter, and you obviously pass in all of the values that you need, and then actually all of the logic happens, so I guess, above and before you return sort of your JSX or your HTML, whatever you sort of decide. So that's kind of it, really. It's a super simple app, as you can see. I'm still learning React, so I'm sort of trying to get to grips with perhaps more of the sort of the logic, and certainly working with forms and other more complex systems. But yeah, I work with React now, sort of majority of the time in my day job, and sort of I'll be, I guess, creating some more courses and showing you what I was sort of learning, and resources as well, which I found handy when learning React, because I certainly appreciate I think it was quite a big jump from going from HTML, CSS, JavaScript to React and beyond, I guess, at this point. So yeah, all of these little projects that I created, I'll be sort of slowly releasing. But yeah, feel free to shout if you've got any questions. As I said, the link to this code will be in the description box below. And yeah, I look forward to sort of seeing what you can create from this as well. If you want to change the styling or add functionality, it'll be really interesting to see. So yeah, good luck with that. Bye then.